What happened?
He said The Shape of Water, and I started picturing a Shape of Water poster, but it's the fish man holding Michael.
There's a scene. There's a cut in this.
Yes, we'll talk about it. We all did it. We all did it.
I'm really glad I wasn't the only one.
Oh yeah.
All right, full spoilers for Halloween Ends, the third and final film of the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy. Halloween Ends is out now. You can watch it on Peacock and whatnot. I don't know why I'm advertising the film, but full spoilers. You have been warned to skip ahead, pause it, do whatever you want, but don't listen to this if you have not seen the movie. Or do. I'm not your boss. Who wants to go first? What do they think?
I'll go first. This movie makes some incredible choices after Halloween Kills. They're not the choices I think I would make, but I'm also not a filmmaker. There are so many people who don't like this movie, and I get it. This movie rips. I love this movie. It is not the movie I thought it was gonna be. This movie as a Halloween movie, I think is excellent. It's not the Halloween movie everyone wants, but I think it is a perfect fitting, maybe not finale, but it is a perfect Halloween movie. This is like the most art house horror movie we've had in a long time, and it's shocking. I'm shocked that Halloween is the movie to do this. To have this movie is a weird art house indie romance that I just didn't expect, and I love it. And unlike other movies that I really like that other people don't like I'm not going to defend this one as hard because I get it. Like if this does not jive with you, I get it. I can't get mad at you. I jived harder than I've ever jived with a movie. Like it's crazy developments tonight. I watched it also 1.5 times because I got Peacock. So when you were gone, I was like, what if I just like turned it on and I started at the point where I'm like, this movie's so good, and I just watched the rest of it again.
That sparks.
I really like this movie. I really do. I think it's very much harkening back to kind of some of the wilder 80s sequels in horror franchises. I'm thinking things like Freddy 2 or It's a Bad One, but it was wild. The Friday the 13th where Jason's not even in it. It feels like it's filled with the kind of like that kind of choice making, but like more thoughtfully crafted. I'm not as hot on it as an end to this trilogy, and I'm definitely not as hot on it as a follow-up to the previous film. I think it's a little bit failing in those respects, but as a film itself in the Halloween franchise, I rather like it a lot.
Cool. Let's get into it then, because I don't know how I feel about this, and I'm excited to find out together.
Oh, that's so interesting, because last I heard from you, you liked it.
I watched it twice. I think I like it, but I'm not sure. So let's dive in.
So you watched it the first time you watched it without having recently rewatched the other two. And then you watched the other two and then it again. And now you might feel different.
I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know, because even coming out of the film, the first time, I was still like, yeah, I think I like that. I think I like that. And I kept thinking to myself, like, I think I like that. And I watched it again. I'm still kind of like, I think I like this, but I'm not quite sure if I do, because I have issues. But I also there's also a lot of this movie there's a lot that the movie does that I really like. So let's find out what my score is going to be together.
I will agree. First and foremost, this is not a good way to end the previous movies that have been established before it. I also think with where they left the last movie, there was no satisfying movie for me where it's just Michael and Laurie doing the thing again.
Yes.
Because then it's just another Halloween movie. Oh, what are we going to battle for an hour and a half, these two senior citizens? That's what I was loathing. That's what I was afraid this movie would be. It'd be just another Halloween. Michael's killing random people trying to get to Laurie, and they won't even explain why. Because like there is no satisfying after kills, especially after killing Judy Greer, which I still think is a mistake.
Right. I agree.
There was no satisfying way to solve the problem that they set up. So instead of doing that, they just made a different movie, which again, maybe not the right choice. It's an infinitely more interesting movie because of it.
Yes.
So I want to bounce off of that, actually, if you don't mind, Sparks. So this is kind of, I completely understand, but this is also the first time that I've seen the Halloween Kills extended ending. Mm-hmm. So I did not know what that film was meant to set up. It wasn't this movie. I'm certain of it.
But
Um,
also, that's the extended cut. It's not technically the canon version.
I understand. I'm not saying it is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I wanted the movie it was setting up. I like what David Gordon Green did in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. Michael's not going after Laurie. It's just kind of what Laurie is. And I think thematically, there's a lot of stuff that keeps going through each film that works in this movie. But I don't know if because of where we left Laurie, even in the regular ending, that I find this a satisfying way to end Laurie and Michael's story. Like, I don't want to talk about the end yet, so I'm going to actually stop there. So, Sparks,
No, that's, I want to piggyback off that though. You said Laurie and Michael's story. I don't think this is going to sound like weird. Like, Halloween isn't about Michael Myers. Not really. I know it's a weird thing to say, but like it is about everything that surrounds him. It's about Laurie. Michael's barely in this movie, and I still think this is a really good Halloween movie.
So I agree. I agree with you about like the core of where Halloween started is not about Michael Myers.
Mhm.
There's been enough sequels that have made that about Michael Myers.
Sure.
So I just want to say, like, because I want to jump into what you were saying earlier. I also understand why fans would be upset with this. I do think, in a sense, there is no good way to have marketed this movie,
Yeah.
but the marketing certainly set that fan up for failure.
That's true.
The fan who does feel like, this is about Michael,
The boxing
and
match,
taking
yeah.
yes, and for the fan who that was what it was, you are let down. You are set up to be let down.
I just
by
wish,
by that marketing thing, and that side of the fandom has to be allowed to exist and be acknowledged that they do, because there are more films, frankly, than there are others that are about Michael Myers, not about what Halloween started out being about.
Yeah.
There are more of those, and there are people that like those movies, and that's the kind of film they want, and I think that's valid to have.
Absolutely.
This film's just not feeding into that audience. And to go back to what you guys were saying, it's not even necessarily that that it's a story about Laurie and Michael, because Halloween isn't. You're correct. I think that Laurie's arc of the trilogy isn't as well executed because of how they handled the bits to get there.
Sure.
In an overall sense, which is one of the things where like it doesn't jive with the previous two as much as you kind of just want it to, because you like the first one and you want this to have been a solid trilogy through and through.
Yeah.
And this one, it kind of makes the glaring issues of the previous one all the more glaring.
Absolutely.
Which is a bummer.
Yeah.
And that just kind of sucks. And it's just very interesting. I'm not gonna say it's wrong or anything. It's just very interesting that Green was doing both of these at the same time. And he's talked in a lot of interviews that I've looked into where he was talking about writing both of these at the same time. So he was writing these side by side, and I'm just like, I don't understand necessarily how you were seeing what you were doing here and not seeing where you were going.
Yeah.
And that it feels like you just weren't communicating all your ideas fully to where you wanted to go, almost like you were hiding the ending from yourself as you did it. And that part, I think, has damaged the integrity of the trilogy at its core, regardless of the fact that I think this film is all the better for moving away from those things, just like you said.
Yeah. This very much like this is the Last Jedi of Halloween's, because like a lot of people don't like Laurie in this movie, and let me tell you why I think this is the best version of Laurie for this trilogy.
I agree with this.
Because the first movie, she's miserable. She's locked up for 40 years. She's waiting to kill Michael. The second movie, she's miserable. She's in a hospital for half the movie. Do you want the third movie just for her to be miserable and just waiting to kill so she can just die to Mike? Her being fulfilled and happy, we're going back to like the life that she never got to have, where she's actually excited about life and she doesn't want her daughter or her granddaughter to go through what she went through. She's the only person who sees Corey for what he is, the same way she saw the same thing in Michael and no one else saw it. Like she makes this big thing about like, you need to take life by the tits and stuff. And I'm like, I can't believe this isn't a Halloween movie. I love this. I can't believe Laurie is happy, because otherwise, guess what? She would just been, again, like, I'm waiting for Michael. I know he's out there. I don't want to see that for 6 hours. Like,
Right.
This is character growth. Everybody has character growth in this.
Yes.
I don't want to see that either. I want to be clear. I don't. I did find it strange that she wasn't more prepared for Michael to come back. I don't want her to be miserable waiting for him to come back like she was in 2018 or half or in a hospital bed for the whole movie. I did find it strange that she had no plan because she knew that Michael was out there still and having killed her daughter. And I'm great. I love that she wants to put it behind her and she wants to kind of live her life. And I love the stuff with her and Frank. I think that stuff is brilliant. I when Michael does show up, it was weird to me that she was blindsided by it.
You go.
I like the idea that she has fed this town's fear of Michael and sees that in the years to come and kind of goes, I need to back out of this. This has gotten like, it's that sequence we see where we see Oscar's mom hung himself, the other people who have died in these tragic ways, like everybody kind of looking around the corner for Michael and her being like, I need to step out of
They've all become Laurie.
And I think that works really well, that idea. I think the true crucial, and there's just no way around it because of the previous film's existence that this film suffers from, is we all are in agreement of it. They shouldn't have killed Karen.
Yeah.
Because the problem is that, I don't believe this, Laurie, in the reality of Karen being killed by Michael that night. I don't buy that. I do if Karen didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes Karen feel so forgettable in a sense. Karen feels forgettable in this movie in a way that, even though I really like a lot of the Laurie stuff we're doing, it bums me out that I feel like Laurie has this drive against Michael that diminishes in spite of her daughter being murdered by him. And that part, and I'm like, this movie could have worked even better to some extent with Karen being the person who's really nervous about Corey, right away, and Laurie being more open and embracing of all this kind of stuff and kind of trying to calm Karen's paranoia back down until she sees Corey's eyes and really registers and all that as a dynamic. Those three, I think we lost something in I talked about this too with you right when we came out of it, is that I think it's a bummer that I like Allison in this movie, but I don't feel like Allison ever had her story, which is a bummer. When you go back to Halloween 2018, it feels like we were meant to at some point. Mm-hmm. And I think taking Karen out of the in-between actually hurt Allison's story too. And that's the thing that as much as I like so many choices in this, they're living in the reality of that.
Yeah.
Killing of Karen that just hurts Laurie's development in a way that just sucks. It just sucks.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm picking up on. when I talk about Laurie being unprepared for Michael when he does show up, it just kind of feels like it just feels weird that this Laurie forgot about her daughter.
See, okay, so I understand that the movie itself doesn't give us any flashbacks or really focus on the Karen's gone. There are a lot of flashes of the Karen #1 daughter, pictures of them. She's always referenced in the movie. There was always a lingering thought of there. She's not maybe as present as I'd like her to be. She's not forgotten in this movie. She's definitely not forgotten in this movie. She's definitely not there as much as I want. Again, the biggest mistake this trilogy made was killing Karen. And that is a fault that this movie, as much as I love it, it is my favorite of the three. It does not rise above the problem that they set itself up. But also, again, it's been, if this were the next day, I feel differently, but it's been 4 years. And I think, even though Laurie doesn't know that Michael's alive or dead, I think it's nice that she's able to just live a life. It's been 4 years. I like that she doesn't have to have the eyes in the back of her head. She just gets to live a life. And then if that makes her less prepared, then good. I mean, she's normal again. She gets to live a regular life. I like that. I like that she's unprepared, because she's not really. She knows he's coming. She almost pretends to kill herself. She's ready for him.
Well, she knows that Corey is going to show up. And I don't know.
No, see, the thing that I love about this movie is I don't think it's a bad movie, and none of us are saying it's a bad movie. I think it's just certain things don't jive with you, and that's allowed in a movie. You can not like the choices they make, and respect it. But and what I love about this conversation is none of you are saying any of this stuff is bad. None of this is bad. It's it doesn't jive with what the previous movies did. Mm-hmm. It's just making such interesting choices. Again, it's a Last Jedi situation where this is such a curveball that we're still processing it as it's happening. That's why I had to watch it half another time.
Sure.
But I know how I feel about the movie, and I just again, it is not a good sequel to the last movie it made.
Right.
If I'm watching this on its own, this movie is insanely cool. and it is visually arresting. It is visually dynamic in the ways the other movies had, but not as much. Like I am in love with the way this movie looks. Like I David Gordon Green had this in him the whole time, making crazy art house stuff, and I'm like, oh shit, dude, like. I almost wish the movie started this way.
Just because you touched on it, one of the main things that stood out to me just rewatching these past three is like even kills. Like I like the way all of them are shot.
Yeah, they're good.
I think they're all
movies.
good looking movies.
Absolutely.
I think that I do want to get this point off just because this is something Ryan and I talked about at length after we saw the film, and I feel very strongly about this, and like it is very much a pontificating. This is a world we don't live in, but it is something where I'm like, I think all your ideas would have made more sense if the story about Corey, the core of the story of this movie, and the story about the town reacting to Michael were flipped. And you got Corey in the second movie, and you got the town in the third movie. Like the ultimate culmination of the stuff that is still happening with Corey and the town in this one. The ultimate culmination is the town with Michael and their relationship with the evil. And like, if that had been more clearly the through line of everything, because I feel like there's a lot of muddied, vague gestures through the previous two films to ideas that don't connect, that makes it so that if you had taken a lot of the town stuff here with Corey and put it in the second film and have the last one be the thing where all of that really comes to a head. And we talked about like, oh, if you'd ended 2018 and then you pick up and everybody thinks that Michael died in the fire. Nobody knows. In fact, for the whole second movie, nobody finds out Michael's actually alive. They think he might be for a second, but it turns out it's Corey.
Yeah.
And nobody knows that Michael is still alive, but the town still has this weird, complicated relationship with Michael Myers, and then you follow up with Michael's actual return and all this kind of stuff, and how that feeds into the town. So it's much more, because I think the town stuff with Michael specifically is a little bit of an afterthought through the trilogy and even into this film. The town stuff with Corey and how that reflects the Michael stuff, very present. The town stuff with Michael specifically, a little bit of an afterthought. And
I really like the way. I agree. If they were able to switch movies, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I have no problem with the way the townspeople handled Michael in this. I think it's them. It's people internalizing their fear. And since Michael's not there, they put their fear on Laurie. Laurie, you're the person who he was a sick old man, and you provoked him because they don't know the full story.
Mm-hmm.
They need to project their fear onto someone. So every person who doesn't know the full story is like that to Laurie. So like I have no problem with every person being shitty because it makes sense.
I will say it does bother me when Allison does that to her. When Allison throws that in her face. That's the like big confrontation before she storms out of the house to go meet up with Corey, when they're on the opposing sides of the door. She says, "This was your paranoia got my parents killed."
Yeah.
And putting that on Laurie. And I'm like,
but it's like the idea of the town infecting everybody, and she's succumbing to it herself.
Yeah.
And like in the end, she ends up on the side of right, but like she has to see her mom fake kill her boyfriend first.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think for me, all of this tracks. Everything that they lay in it tracks. All the characters track. If this were the second movie, it would make all the mob mentality of the kills make much more sense. I wish that was the world we live in. Because then it would be a trilogy that actually makes sense.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's not.
It's not. Right.
I still people are fuming that Michael Myers is barely in this movie, and I get it. I really do. I so get it. He could have been in it less, and I would have been happy for real. Because you know what? I got the 21st century Michael Myers and Corey. I got how does a Michael Myers be formed in a town like Haddonfield? It's like I love this movie so much because it's like it's trying to say something about evil, and it's like it's dealing with a copycat killer, but in a really like an almost spiritual, mystical way. There's a point where Michael Myers kills someone and his body's like rejiggering. I'm like, is he absorbing their essence?
Yeah.
Like, is it turning spiritual? Corey's eyes definitely change color. So I don't know. There's some interesting shit happening.
Gordon Green said something that I thought, I very much agree with. And I understand that this was kind of, this is the reason Corey is in this movie, is that what he said is you can't answer too many questions about Michael.
Yeah.
If you answer too many questions about Michael, it hurts the movie. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like the first Rob Zombie Halloween. Because not only does it retread the first film, but it also answers a lot of questions about Michael. There's ambiguity with the second one.
No, I'm saying that this movie is obviously not copying the Rob Zombie movies, but it is doing the thing of this is how people who are abused become the monsters.
Yes.
So because Corey has an abusive family, just like the Michael potentially had, or he had in the Rob Zombie movies.
Right, and it's still projecting that idea. But as far as how does Michael live? What sustains him? These kinds of things. He's like, you can't answer these questions. He just does.
Why does he
like-
stand in the window? Like it doesn't. I don't.
Yeah. You can't.
Well,
I do think like maybe we should have not dwelled on the questions quite the way we did in the
I
first two
agree with
films.
that part.
But like if his argument is that you can't. Sorry, real quick, Brandon. His argument is that you can't answer those questions about Michael. So we're going to find a way to explore related questions through Corey, and I think that is very smart. That is the right way to go about it. The right way to get people to think about something without giving clear answers about the other.
Mhm.
And that Michael will always, like in Gordon Green's mind, like Michael must always feel like top dog.
So I just wanted to bounce back on the question, why does Michael go to the window? That is answered in Halloween Kills, at least to the point that people are speculating too, which is the only answer you ever need. Is a speculated answer by the characters, especially when it comes to a character who's meant to be as ambiguous as Michael Myers. They say he's looking in. There's something about his reflection in that window that where he sees himself. He sees through his eyes or something like that. And I really like that, because I noticed the second time watching all three that David Gordon Green does some really cool stuff with reflections in all
Sure.
three of these movies. There's some really great shots with reflections. Michael looking in a reflection, Michael being seen through a reflection. And I really, really like it every single time. And so like I almost kind of wish he had. It almost feels like he didn't take that approach that you're talking about with how he took with Corey. Like, you can't answer these questions with Michael, so he created Corey. And how, well, what you said, I'm vibing with that. I like Corey. I like that. I almost kind of wish that he took that approach with Kills, because I actually think he spends too much time seeking answers to the questions posed in Kills.
So this was something Ryan and I were talking about on the rewatch, is that like, Halloween 2018 feels like it's setting up, if you're making two movies as a sequel to that one, everybody's demanding to understand Michael's motivations. Everybody's demanding he speak and share his motivations, why he does what he does. And it feels like you're owed, because of just the way the film is structured to be offered to you. If you are going past that film, you are owed answers. And then Kills kind of feeds into that mentality, this idea that you will get answers to Michael. That's why everybody's, but to your what your point was, Brandon, is that even as they give an answer of like Michael is looking in, it's speculation still. It's not an answer. It doesn't mean that's exactly what, nobody knows what's actually going on in Michael's head, and nobody ever will. And that's the way it should stay. You can do a reading where you say, yes, he's looking in, and then he left because the Myers house was destroyed, which I really like. There's a news headline that tells us they were like, F that house and destroyed it. And I'm really grateful for that. But that he goes and retreats into the pipe, and it isn't until Corey is in front of him and he looks into his eyes, and we see the reflected shot. We see his mask reflected back in his eyes. And you could argue that that's another moment of him, like, what he's really engaging with isn't necessarily Corey being a similar spirit, but instead the window moment.
Yeah.
That could be true. Who knows? We won't get answers. It's better that way.
Thank you, David Lynch.
But it does feel like we are talking about like the previous ones in comparison, but it does feel like they are building you to have questions,
yes,
that they will not answer. And I do think that is a Achilles heel of Kills specifically.
I do agree. Like a little too much setup in the previous movies, but I do think Corey is an extremely good window into how someone like Michael Myers is created.
Right.
You want all the questions that like the Michael, these are the answers. It's not through Michael, it's indirectly through another character.
Mhm.
Like these are all the like, oh, why is Michael like this? Like, well, here's a version. This is it's almost like, again, like if you want to do multiverse nonsense, like this is like multiverse. This is Michael Myers. Like this is how someone who kills someone, either accidental or real, their life is forever changed by how the way the people view them. If you are always viewed as a monster, hold on real quick. If you're always viewed as a monster and there's no one to back you up, you have someone to take you from the darkness. And Corey has a couple people like that. Once those people are gone, it's downhill from there. And there's a question to be said. Corey was evil from the start. I think he was evil from the start. He was awakened through this meeting with Michael and stuff.
So what I like about Corey's setup is that it can be. Personally, I didn't read it that way. As you said that he was evil from the start, I didn't read it that way. I read it as someone being infected with evil, because there's a lot of what Laurie talks about that really jives with me. And we talk about this film jiving. What I really like about all three films is that Laurie constantly talks about how, it's what Loomis talked about in the original films. He's the personification of evil. this Michael Myers, even though he was stripped back from a lot of his supernatural abilities, is still meant to be that kind of personification of evil, and how evil infects the town, infects Haddonfield through these 4 years. We see it in the montage going up. So what I really like about it is that you can almost read it the way I read it, is that he is a good person who, if he had killed a little boy, which was an accident, and the town had, rallied behind him, hey, it was an accident, things were really, he would not have turned into the next Michael Myers. But because the town had been infected by this evil, by looking for this boogeyman, by finding and finding this kid, demonizing this kid, that infected him, and then Michael Myers eventually basically letting him go.
Yeah.
And that kind of infected him to become the next Michael Myers.
I think to both of your points, like I think that the potential exists. I don't think he's evil at the start. I know what you're referring to, which is the I'm gonna kill you.
I want to bring that up. Yes. So in the I don't know if it's Halloween Kills, but there's an old person talking about. I remember Michael when he was a kid. He was a regular kid. There was no sign that he was going to be a murderer. Right. That's just like Corey. My reasoning, again, this is all like my speculation. Like when he's trapped in that room, he's yelling more aggressively, and then he says, "I'm going to kill you." So his aggression to me seems like it could be 20 years before he breaks, but that is someone who will break eventually. That's what I think.
In just a reference, in Kills, it's the guy talking to Frank in 1978, and he's saying that Michael was always a little strange because he would just stare out the window in his sister's room. Okay. And that was the thing they noticed. He didn't say like, oh, there were no signs. He just says like, it seemed like a nice kid, but he was 6. Like, he was just really.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah, but he was always strange because he would stare out the window. Like if they are saying anything, they're pointing out the window thing. They're not really like saying like there were no signs.
I'm saying he wasn't violent, is what I mean.
Sure. Yeah. But with what I think is important about it is that what I think they're really doing is all of it is choice, right? Because if you're taking in Laurie's narration about her memoir stuff, then she's saying it's a choice. It's a choice to embrace the darkness. Corey himself says it because he says when you looked in Michael's eyes, you should have let it in what you felt.
God, that's so
you should have just let that in.
That's so sinister. So
I think the potential for evil always exists in Corey. Yeah. I just don't think he was it because we also get the dad of the kid who's there and he's like, I know the guy who was watching my kid that night didn't kill my son. Mm-hmm. I know it. The guy I saw on the street though, different, not the same. Mm-hmm. And so I think he chooses to be that. What?
I was just about to bring that up. The guy at the pool house, the bar, because like I really love that moment where he's like, I was gonna pull over, prove the town wrong, prove my wife wrong. That kid didn't kill my son, but like he looks at the kid, he looks at his eyes now, and he sees that evil that Laurie is seeing because he let that evil in. And I think that's a really good moment. I really like everything they did with Corey in this. I think Corey represents a lot of really great stuff.
Rowan Campbell, who plays Corey, I'm not familiar with this dude's work. This is such a performance. This dude kills it so hard. He goes from being like, like the almost like a Peter Parker glasses, like kind of like
dweeb,
chocolate milk drinker to like the most sinister mother effer, like riding literally shot for shot a David Lynch scene where he's like hanging out with this girl and she's biting his ear. And I'm like, this is so sexy right now. This is a Halloween movie. Like for real, like there's a song, the song is Burn It Down that they're listening to. And as they're talking about burning down the town, metaphorically in her eyes, actually in his eyes, she's like, oh, we got to burn the town down. We got to leave. Like she doesn't want to burn anything. She just wants to leave. He's like, nah, let's burn the town down. I'm going to kill all these people. Like, it's just like, it's so spicy. It's so spicy. I will agree. Allison doesn't maybe have the best character arc, but I think she's so vital to the movie and vital to Corey's journey.
It's not even necessarily that she doesn't have a good character arc. I just don't feel like this was her story. And I don't feel like she had a film that belonged to her. And I kind of wish she did. It's one of those things that we kind of talked about when Halloween Kills was coming out, we said they didn't do a very good job of it, but it kind of felt like it was supposed to be Karen's movie. Mm-hmm. And so like the first one was going to be Laurie's. The second one was going to be Karen's. The third one would have been Allison's. Yeah. And that's kind of what we thought we were getting. And I would argue that this isn't really Allison's movie.
No.
And that's neither here nor there really, but like I wouldn't say she doesn't have an arc. I do think she has an arc. Yeah. I think she has some material to work with. It's just not the focus on the character. I wish we had gotten somewhere in these films.
Sure.
That being said, I wanted to go back real quick to the dad talking about Corey scene because he has my favorite line in the movie. At least I think it probably is my favorite line, which is where he says, really never liked that the town did that. They took my pain and made it about them.
There you go.
And I thought that was
the movie.
I thought that was really good. I thought
Yeah.
that was a really good line. And I really like that read of it.
I love the town. I love the town so much more in this than in the last one. Because like the last one, like I understand like mob mentality, but it felt very extreme and it felt very fast. Whereas like real like fear and pain is like more like it's like this. It's like microaggressions. Like everyone's just snippy to each other. Everyone's a little like, if you're racist, your racism comes out a little more. It's like, it's much more, it feels like a seedy underbelly than just like, we're mad because of monsters. Like it feels more real.
Someone made the comparison that it feels very much that David Gordon Green turned Haddonfield into like Derry, Maine. How like Pennywise infects the town with evil, and how like the adults in that town just kind of progressively get worse and worse every generation. And it kind of feels like that's what Michael Myers has become to the people of Haddonfield, this kind of infected evil.
I love that idea.
And I think they do a good job of like distinguishing that, like, even as Corey is copying Michael, he's very incel in his way. He's a very selfish, focused killer.
If I can't have her, no one will.
It's not the motivation. We know his motivations. His motivations are not Michael's. Well, like as much as he's reflecting like how a Michael could be created, to some extent, his motivations are very, very crystal clear. Which is like he kills the doctor who mistreats Allison. He kills the nurse who took the promotion. He kills the teenagers who bully him. He kills the radio person who bullies him and Allison.
I want to addendum real quick on that point. A lot of the kills in the previous two movies, it's a slasher movie. They're all not personal. It's just Michael killing people. Almost every kill in this movie is a personal kill.
Right. Because of Corey. Because for Corey, it is personal. These are all premeditated choices, which is not how Michael does.
Absolutely.
He is operating completely differently. Every one of his kills is for a personal gain.
He becomes so cocky when he's like, okay, like I'm so good now. I'm just gonna take his mask. I'm just gonna be Michael Myers now because I'm so good at it.
Right.
I love Corey. Man, I knew about this. I didn't tell you guys. I knew about this shit months ago that there was a lead new character and people hated the test screenings of this movie. So I was ready.
You didn't tell us the specifics.
I did not tell you the specifics, but I knew the direction the movie's going. It's not about Michael Myers. And I was like, cool, I'm going to hate this movie. The reviews come out, cool, I'm going to hate this movie. The marketing, cool, I'm going to hate this movie. Then I watched the movie and I'm like, why is this a weird art house movie? Like it's insane.
I want to keep it back on Corey's motivations through that, as I really like his first kill with the cop, where he like brings the cop into Michael's den. First off, I really like how that scene is blocked. It's one of the few times that I've actually like paid attention to blocking, because there's this one specific scene, there's one specific shot that I love the shot. It's when he's looking at something and we don't know what he's looking at because the camera shows you that Michael Myers is just in the corner of his eye and he's in focus. Michael Myers is in focus, but there's no musical sting to like be like, ooh, Michael Myers is there. It's just he's just there, kind of in his Igor state right now. Mm-hmm. And I really love how that is shot. And to have like, and then to like have Michael like come out of the thing. I really like how he does that. And you can read, and again, going back to the read I have of like, he's been infected by Michael Myers. He wants to know how to kill like Myers. How do you do it? How can you do this? And he like, and Michael like kind of agrees to show him.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll kill this guy for you. I don't give a shit.
And to bounce off that to the doctor nurse one, when he's killing the nurse, Corey is almost like a director, like framing the shot with his hand. Like he's like, what? How do you do it, Michael? How do you stab someone in the belly? He's just like he's like an auteur, like watching an auteur paint. Like how do I?
And like Michael in that moment is really interesting because he's there as backup. Right? Mm-hmm. Like that could be read that way. Michael is there almost as like a supervisor. Like, oh, you missed one. Let me get it for you.
It's a good moment too, because like Corey's blocked out and then she opens the door and Michael's there. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's two of you.
I think that's a really good moment because I didn't think Michael was going to be there.
Same. Yeah.
I thought Michael was not going to be there. And it was just we're just going to see Corey kill these people. And like Corey has this rage in that kill. Like when the door gets shut, he's like, damn it. How did I, he's not saying anything, but he's like, he's very rageful trying to hit the door. Michael wouldn't do that. No. Michael would find a different way in.
very, very specifically, like when he gets, Corey he's like Ghostface, which is when he gets like hit.
It felt so like
and knocked
Scream.
back. He makes sounds and everything, and that's how like okay, he's not really taking in what Michael is though.
Yeah.
Like he's not really getting what Michael is because Michael's on a whole other planet of what he does. And that's like. It feels like there's something weird in like a possible supernatural connection with the fact that he like feels the need to undo his bandage to like connect his hand. He does it more.
It feels like almost like is it going to heal,
Michael? Yeah. Will it heal? Will I get what you have?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he sees like Michael kind of like regenerate, like his essence regenerates when he's killing that cop almost, which I think is awesome to see because he's got like and then he's like, oh, I'm Michael.
They never like it's a short scene. They never obviously they don't have to explain it. I don't want to, but he just like, and I'm like, are you just like emotetting right now? Are you hell raising right now? Your body's just remorphing. Like, I love it. I love how like nonchalant almost it is.
The thing that I really connect with Michael Myers, just in all of the Michael Myers films I've seen all but the Rob Zombie films and the last two of the originals. I like how Myers is an artist.
Mm-hmm.
He really is. He'll stage a scene. He doesn't care. He'll be in 2018. He kills that babysitter. Puts her in a chair. Puts the cloak over her to make a ghost, and then puts the
Big John, Little
John. Dude, Michael is so disconnected because he's still considered people consider him he's still like that 6-year-old in a 70-year-old body. So he's still kind of like discovering things and
always tilting his head.
Yeah, almost. And so like Corey is kind of like the guy who's making an adaptation of a comic book but doesn't understand the comic book.
Yeah.
Right? He's doing everything right, but he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand why it's not working the same way.
There can only be one Michael Myers. Sorry, Corey.
You're not going to see Corey lift a girl up by her neck and then stab her to a painting and let her hang there. Like, I mean, I guess he could be eventually, but
no, I know.
Like, he's not. Corey is not the kind of killer that Michael is.
He's too freshman.
He's too freshman. He's too frustrated. He's too angry. We like Spark said, we know what he wants. We know why he's doing this. He's doing this because he's angry at the town. Michael isn't angry at the town. He just
he only kills people he's mad at.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Going to the junkyard where he works, where his stepdad works or whatever.
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't gonna kill his stepdad. I had a feeling he wasn't. But like that dude's got to die somehow, and like the way he goes out, it's really sad. And like the teenager shoots him, and then he drops, and Corey's gone. And there's a lot of really great cuts in this movie.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great slam cuts of different things happening. But like that scene specifically was so spooky. The girl under the fence, that poor girl, she got a double.
I really liked how I really like. You talk about cuts. This is what I wanted to say. This film has my favorite cut in the whole franchise, which is the cut after Michael he killed the doctor and the nurse, and for a split second I thought Michael Myers was on the back of that motorcycle.
Everybody did.
It was elation in my like. There's no way it could have happened, but like it's like sweet cut and the music's playing and you see Corey, but you don't see who's behind him. It's like no fucking way, dude. It was like a 10% chance. It's like we gotta go, Michael.
I really like that. There's someone made the picture. I'm gonna show it to the video audience. Someone made the picture.
That's perfect. So this scene specifically, this little 10-minute scene, this is a direct, almost shot for shot from Lost Highway, a movie I just watched. The opening credits of Lost Highway are the white lines down the highway that are going really fast. That is a direct scene in this movie that happens during the scene. It feels super like surreal and like almost like a dream. Like when they're sitting on top of the thing, like, I want to climb that water tower or that tower, like it's calling to me, and like we're gonna burn this place down, sugar. And like it feels like super old school and feels very 80s.
Yes, it does.
And I just like, and like I was in
Corey
rapture.
becomes an 80s bad boy.
Yeah, he straight up becomes like a Twin Peaks character at some point. I'm just like, this is not what the Halloween movie that the people want, but like it is feeding me so much that I did not know I needed. And again, it's not like Michael Myers is in the movie enough for me. I don't have a problem with that. The idea of Halloween and the infection of the town stuff is so part of the movie where I have no problems with any of that stuff. I'm probably the most positive on the internet about this movie. I love it so much.
I want to bring up something that I think I probably brought up with Kills. I really like you can tell the attention to detail of all three of these films. I know that Kills and Ends were not in David Gordon Green's eye, and it might have been he might have been thinking about them, but like the intention for Halloween was not to launch a trilogy. That was the bonus because it did so well.
Mhm.
But if you watch them all together, there's a lot of things that will kind of come back. So like in Halloween, a nurse and a doctor couple get in a car
Right.
and drive off. They're main characters in Kills. And
Right.
in this one, that and in Kills, that guy says, "Oh yeah, I work with Doctor what's his name?" That's the doctor who dies in this movie. So I really like how that kind of how they keep kind of setting up things that don't matter really. That like in Kills, we hear the radio station for a second, and then ends we see we go to the radio station. I just really like that kind of connection that is seeded throughout the entire trilogy. It really makes it feel like a whole.
Yeah, initially I know the 4 years later thing was like a big almost like a red flag of like, are we just gonna do another Halloween? But like I really think that like it really helped evolve into whatever the story became, because like I think you need the years for Laurie to be who she is at this point. Like you can't do it like a week after Halloween or Halloween Kills, right? Like you're not in cherry blossoms mode a week after that, right? It takes a couple years to get over that stuff. So like I love the finale. Like between Michael and Laurie is cool or whatever, but like with Corey and Laurie, where he stabs himself right before her daughter walks in.
Mhm.
That is such a misdirect that I didn't see coming. Because then, like, oh my god, you're gonna turn! It's so good, it's so brilliant. I love it. I thought it was. I was shocked in the theater, like hardcore.
Did you guys notice? I could be way off base, but I'm pretty sure this is the case. Corey Cunningham and Michael Myers are the only two names with the initials
Alliteration?
with the alliteration initials.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think that's a clever detail. That's a nice
Yeah.
little attention that they did.
Comic book characters and murderers.
Um, I I really like Frank.
Mhm.
I liked him in Kills. And I like him fine enough in Halloween. Quiet. And it's really nice to see them kind of get a rom-com for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I adore that scene. "I like your hair," and she, like, twirls her hair. She's like, "Oh, thanks. I like your face." I mean, I wanna see more of that's adorable. That's adorable. I love that scene.
I love it because I didn't catch this. Somebody else did online, but like Laurie has been trapped with this fear and burden for 40 years. This is the first time that she's ever felt like a
Mhm.
teenager again. This is the first time in her life where she gets to be a real person since she was a teenager. So of course she's going to be flirty and lovey-dovey and like, because she never got to experience that before.
Right.
And I think that's awesome. I think it's so great.
Right.
And like again, the cherry blossoms keep coming up thing. I think that's so cute.
Yeah.
Frank, he's in the movie just enough to be like, hey, I'm still here. Don't worry. I'm like, that's great. You're cool. You guys are
The
cute.
chemistry between that actor and Jamie Lee Curtis is really good. They've got really good romantic chemistry that I don't think Kills prepared me for because Kills they're in a hospital. The two of them are in a hospital bed for the whole movie.
You get like a scene of it.
Yeah, and so going into this one, that grocery store scene might be one of my favorites of the whole franchise.
It's a real nice.
Like I really think I really think that is a stunning scene.
It's how crazy is it that like one of your favorite scenes in a Halloween franchise is a grocery scene. One of mine is just people like sitting on a roof talking about burning it down, like nothing to do with Halloween really. Like what a weird movie. I get people not liking it. I don't think this movie is like a 35% Rotten Tomato. Like this movie is like hardcore, not people like this movie. And I get it. I really wish people understood that like not liking the vibes of a movie and thinking it's like a piece of trash. Like I think I think in a couple of years, this movie's going to get like a second win, and people, especially art house fools, they're already recognizing it. All the spooky people who like the shit, like, oh, you guys recognize it already, and like even you guys, like, well, like might not as hot as me, recognize like they're doing cool shit in this movie. So like, I hope this movie gets a resurgence down the line.
Kind of along that same vein, to kind of keep it there for a minute. I think Halloween Kills is a very clumsy movie.
Yeah.
I think Halloween Ends is also a clumsy movie, but not in the same way, and certainly it's a more ambitious film than Kills is. And I think that's kind of where it works for me, is in its ambition.
Yeah. And I think pretty much everything, again, what Kills set up, I'm glad none of that stuff was paid off, because it's honestly stuff I don't really need answered. So like the fact that it was just its own thing, I get it's a bad way to end a trilogy, but this movie is so interesting. It's the most, I mean, besides like, you know, maybe the Rob Zombie movies, like the most interesting Halloween movie, because like it doesn't feel like a traditional one, but it still has all the merits and all the values.
There's a lot of reason why people are comparing like the Rob Zombie Halloween 2 with this.
Yeah,
we talked about it before.
Yeah. I mean, like, hey, Season of the Witch, people were not happy about, like, where's Michael Myers? This is an anthology.
Well,
that
sure.
was always the idea for Halloween.
Right.
That was always the idea.
Yeah, people hated that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, every couple of movies, whether they're good or bad, because they're bad Halloween movies, but like every couple of years they try something that doesn't work. But like this time, man, it worked. It worked way better than I could have anticipated, and hopefully in the future people will agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked that, you know, for Corey, he is like the kind of nebbish guy. Again, like, this is a very 80s kind of style story, and becomes the cool bad boy with the leather jacket and motorcycle thing. But they don't, I want to find the right way to say it, because glamorize it isn't really what I'm trying to go for, but like, he's not cool now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
he looks cool.
He looks cool, but he's not cool. Like, you know, they didn't put on a pedestal the like changing yourself to become this and taking revenge / murdering your
is a good thing.
As a good thing, which is like something a lot of like those 80s tropes would, like when you change, like like getting the upper hand of the other guys. Yeah, you're so cool, and like it is net positive in its portrayal, and this ultimately is not. And I think I was nervous partway into the movie of us entering that territory, and I'm glad we didn't. That like it takes Corey down as far as it needs to.
Absolutely. For it. The final battle between Michael and Laurie, I thought it was fine. Like, it's not like the most extravagant thing, but also again, like they're two 70-year-old people. Like, I don't need it to be extravagant.
Because you brought it up, I will speak to that, because I think that's kind of the most disappointing part of this movie for me. And Sparks brought this up really succinctly. There was no good way to market this movie. The way this movie is marketed, if you wanted that movie, gonna be disappointed. I'm not saying I did, but I will say that because we have 2018, which I think is a very good, like, it's that final confrontation of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. It's not in the regards of this trilogy, but it's a good scene. I really like how that scene plays out. I really like all the action bits that they do in it. I think that's awesome. I think Halloween 2018. I think Halloween, the movie rules. But going from that to just kind of a kitchen scuffle is a little disappointing, I won't lie.
Sure.
And that's kind of, I'm not saying I wanted a big epic fight. I don't know. That one is the one where I was kind of, or I wasn't jiving.
Sure.
Right, when we're talking about jiving. But I do like how Michael is dispatched. I like the quietness of it. I like the kind of definitive, kind of calmingness that it gives Laurie. I like that.
Yeah. So for me, I did not like the marketing. I'm glad there's not a good scenario here, because again, like, these aren't two 25-year-olds, and Michael, like, I guess the age doesn't really matter, because that can be tough. But like, I don't need a 25-minute extended brawl between these two people. I don't need a 10-minute brawl between these two people. What people wanted this last movie to just be these two fighting for like the entire movie, and I find that to be extremely boring. Her fighting Michael is not interesting to me. I have no interest in them duking it out, because I've seen it for almost 40 years at this point.
We talked about it in Halloween Kills. Like, because of what Halloween killed, because Halloween Kills overpowers Michael. Like if Halloween 2018 brings Michael back to basics. Halloween Kills brings him back up to this kind of super strong monster and whatever. But like that Michael Myers coming out of Halloween Kills, Laurie Strode is no match for that Michael Myers. There's no way that Laurie could win that fight. Like
He's also been like,
Right.
he was shot a bunch and he's been living in a sewer, so I don't think he's at 100% either.
well, but that's what I'm saying.
He wouldn't be living in a sewer then, I think.
That's what I think. That's what I think this film, I think smartly is the right word. Smartly does, which is bring Michael back down to the level of that Laurie could beat
Yeah.
him. Sorry.
I think
I think that works.
I think importantly, like Laurie doesn't beat him. That's the important. Allison is the only reason Laurie wins.
Yep.
Yeah.
Laurie doesn't win on her own.
Laurie is going to let herself die at that
Right,
moment, y'all.
right.
If everyone,
And Michael, if Michael choked her out, he probably would have gotten up and gotten away.
yeah, Yeah.
He probably would have.
Well, he's still. The implication is that no matter what, that cut in his throat, he will die.
She hadn't cut him in the throat yet by that
Yeah,
point.
he
did
is.
she?
Yes, she had. She
But
cut him in the.
when-
She cut him in the throat,
I
and then
thought she did that after Allison was there.
No, so he cuts it. So she cuts him in the throat, and then he rips his hand through the knife
yeah.
to strangle her.
And she's just
and-
willing to die with him.
And so he's still dying. You see him gurgling, you hear him choking, and so he's strangling her. That's when Allison comes break the thing, and then he cuts her again in the arm.
Yeah, I do
Sure.
believe, yeah, he would have died. But I think like she was like, this is the end for both of us. It's a Horcrux moment, baby. We're all gonna die
Yeah.
together.
I mean, just in Halloween movies, if they'd wanted, Michael can live through.
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like no, I'm sorry. I will subscribe to that. Allison coming in is the only reason that Michael.
I mean, I'll buy
actually
that
dies
too.
that
Yeah.
night. And Laurie beats him.
I do think
I don't have a problem with the kitchen scuffle thing. Ultimately, honestly, like my only issue, honestly, with the ending of the film and that whole bit is that just the structure of the film, the way the tone of the film and what they were doing with the story feels, it does feel like we suddenly go, okay, now we're gonna switch to a traditional, more focused on the things from the previous film. We are just like flipping the switch. Here we go. Different movie going on for these next like 10 minutes, guys. And that's just a vibe. That's just a vibe that I feel when we flip away from Corey and now it's on Michael and Laurie and it's on the dispatchment of Michael. We have riveted back to the feel of Halloween Kills, almost in spite of not maintaining the exact vibe of what we had going on before up to that point. These things, it's almost like, it's almost in some ways the afterthought of the film for the story the film was telling. Like ultimately the story the film was telling, right, is kind of done when Corey's done. The film, the whole movie, the trilogy story is done when Michael's killed at the end
honestly,
of this movie.
I don't have a problem with it, but it does feel like we need to do something with Michael, or else the fans will be pissed. So let's literally.
It's a
destroy
vibe.
his
It's a
body.
vibe thing where it feels like, oh, and then we had to keep going for this bit. That has to be here because this is the end of the trilogy, so we have to do this here. But it wasn't really
Right.
the story of this
I think-
movie.
I think you're right that it does feel a little tacked on. It does feel like an afterthought. But I think you also brought up that it almost has to happen because you got to end the trilogy. Whereas I think you're absolutely right in everything you're saying. So I'm really just kind of repeating what you said badly. But like the idea of like, yeah, Corey's death is really the end of this movie. Of what the story that Halloween ends is telling, that ends with Corey dies. The movie, the story the trilogy was telling has to end also.
Right.
So they also tack on the Michael Myers. And
Right,
by the
and-
way, I think the crushing him is awesome.
Evil
So I
Eyes
want to,
tonight.
and I want to be specific that it's the fight with Michael and the dispatchment of Michael at the junkyard. Those are the parts I'm talking about. The stuff after with Laurie and Frank or Allison leaving Haddonfield, that is still in tone of the movie we were telling before with Corey and everything.
Mhm.
It's this section where we're like, we gotta go out of our way. We gotta go throw him in the grinder and show it. That is not in tone of what we were.
We gotta make
doing
sure
about Corey. Yeah,
Halloween ends.
we have changed to say like, oh yeah, but also Michael Myers, guys, and like, oh yeah, okay. And it's just a weird shift in mood. This is again one of those things where I'm like, you take the story of Corey, you flip it around, you put kills here, and this ending makes more sense thematically with the town confronting Michael in Kills. It makes
Because
more connective tissue to that as the ultimate culmination of that fight, not the fight with Corey.
because what the whole, like, this is how we do things. It is tonight, and they strap him up on the car, and they kind of parade him through the town. So,
Yeah.
and then it's time for this town to start healing. That you're right. That does kind of feel more in line with the story that Kills was telling, with the town having become riotous, trying to kill Michael.
Right, like this would be what happens after they successfully, like with Laurie probably there and present, beat the shit out of him in the street and then strap him to a car.
This should have happened
like
in the other Kills.
if it were flipped, right? Like
Yeah.
that Karen leads him into the trap, and
Yeah.
they get on him and they jump him and they beat the shit out of him. They strap him to the car, take him to the junkyard. The story's over. Yeah, it's not a detriment really to the film. Honestly, because again, like the successful story of Corey Cunningham is told. It's just kind of one of those things where like, oh, this feels kind of weird because it feels like it had to be here, not because it was naturally like part of what we were doing with this night's story. But I do like Laurie fighting Michael. I do like
it's
her the way I wanted to say, like the way that I personally like the way she uses the environment to pin him.
Yeah,
I think it works for me. I feel like it feels just as desperate as the final confrontation of the original feels, where Laurie's just pulling every trick she possibly can just to make it out
and
on top.
And I love the moment after it's brutal and it's like very silent, but like after she slits his wrist, and like she's holding his hand and she just like lets go. It's like they have like, they're not, obviously he's a bad guy, but they have such a relationship together over these decades, and it's like it's finally ending.
And even then, that's something Laurie's projected on him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how Michael thinks of her. It's something
That's
Laurie's
so
projected
true
on him.
Oh my god, yeah,
because even she is projecting something onto Michael
those
Myers.
podcasters from the first movie, everyone always projects on Michael. Michael's just like, I just want to kill guys. I don't care. Stop thinking about me so much.
Nobody understands Michael.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah, even Laurie is always projecting an idea on Michael.
Yep.
That's what I really like about all three of these films that started with Halloween 2018. Michael doesn't care about Laurie. To him, Laurie is nothing.
She just happens to be there.
So I like that the films almost kind of like have to find a way to put them together, and that becomes like the issue, because like in Halloween Kills, there is no confrontation between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, because Halloween Kills, everyone, even Karen says it in Halloween Kills, like, he's coming here. And then they convince her, like, wait, no, this has actually never been about Laurie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Laurie never hears that, right? Like, Laurie never hears, this has never been about you.
Because again, like Michael shows up at the house at the end. It's like
Frank
he's not there. He's not there for her. He's here for the mask.
Frank does say that to Laurie in Halloween Kills. When they're in the hospital, he says this isn't about you. He tells her that Dr. Sartain was driving him to you that night.
Right.
Dr. Sartain.
So she does hear that idea does exist. It's just not, and you could argue that that's part of how Laurie's able to move on for this movie, but it doesn't change the fact that for Laurie, he still is something. She has manifested him to something. That's something you can't let go of. No, like not after 40 years. You can't let go of it after 4 years.
You're right. It's like looking at a abuser who's death and kind of finding closure in your trauma, because that's what these movies have all been about. These 3 movies have all been about, is about Laurie's trauma, the town's trauma, Corey's trauma, with these idea that while Michael kind of exists as an amalgamous boogeyman, he has had such a dark stain on the people who have crossed his path. That's what Kills is about, because Kills brings back everyone who survived the first movie,
right?
Just to kill them again.
Hell yeah.
That's one of those things. It's like, oh, imagine if those characters could have been peppered in with this Corey story, and then we get the like final come up on them on Kills. That brings up a good point. Like, I totally understand it, but I kind of wish that our radio personality guy had been present from the beginning up to 2018. So we were always kind of hearing his voice in the background.
Yeah.
And then we finally see him in this one. Thought that would have been cool.
Would have been cool. Yeah.
There's a shot that I found funny in Halloween, and so in Halloween 2018, we see Halloween Kills, we see Allison's boyfriend stumble upon Officer Hawkins, who had just been stabbed by Sartain at that point.
Also run over, but we forget about that part.
Also run over, just to kind of finish the job. And in Halloween, this isn't the case, but in Halloween Kills, the radio tower is present.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
thought that, and that's kind of really funny to me because it's like, oh no, we had the idea for the radio. Now we're gonna show you that. That's a location you're gonna see.
I remember seeing that. Now that you brought it up, I remember seeing the shot and like thinking, oh, that's interesting because they do it twice, right? They do it with Cameron, but it's also with the 1978 flashback when the two officers are like, he was looking at Haddonfield, a town where nothing happens, and he's looking out the stretch and the tower is there.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
By the way, I Halloween Kills, the flashback film scenes are great. I think those are shot really well. Looks exactly like that original film. I think they're great.
Yeah. I think that overall this trilogy is like, it's got a lot of issues. It's got a lot of messiness. It has a lot of like not bizarrely not feeling like it's in conversation entirely with each other, even though it's all made by the same team.
What is this, a Star Wars movie?
But even with that being said, it does more, all of them do more with what its setup is than most normally would. And I'd rather they be like these things that we can at least really spend some time thinking on and pontificating about. And even if we're wishing for better, like I still really like Halloween Kills for a lot of the value of like everything that's outside of specifically the mob mentality with thinking that the other mental patient is Michael Myers. That's the one part that really just doesn't work for me. It's too sloppily put in, and killing Karen is a bad thing. But like other than that, like a whole lot of the ideas there I think really work. I think they would have worked even more in communication as like it still just feels to me. We talked about this I think way back when Halloween Kills first trailer came out and they showed the town kind of rallying together with Tommy, and I was like, man, this kind of feels like what you do with the last one though.
Yeah,
where you get the town like all like ramped up and everything. And I still feel like that's I'm glad that this is a personal story. I'm glad despite everything that like this is what we have, because I think this is a more interesting film in itself. For the trilogy itself, I just wish everything was kind of rejiggered to communicate with each other.
Yeah,
better.
It's after Halloween 2018. It's like it's a franchise. Like Halloween is a franchise. As much as I wish it was just like a small thing that like it has become a franchise that lots of people watch. A little more for Quadrant, but it's still Halloween. This is not for Quadrant at all. This is very much like you're either gonna vibe with it or you're not. And like it's again coming off of Kills. Like I just don't know if they were just gonna make a movie of Michael's gonna kill again and Laurie's in the way. Like I just don't know what could be interesting about that at all. And of course they could have probably thought of something. I'm not a filmmaker, but like. Jesus, like this is so much more interesting and thought-provoking. And I think we've had like meaningful conversations as opposed to like, wow, I like the way the guy got stabbed, right? And that's not something we usually do in a Halloween movie. Not that I need it to be in every Halloween movie, but like this is a big swing for a movie, for a franchise like this. And I'm just like, I really wish this was the case where people swung with it, but a lot of people are against it, and that's fine. I do think this movie has a lot going for it, and I do think in the next couple of years it will be reevaluated and like, no dude, that movie rules.
Okay, talking about bringing up, kind of bouncing off what you just said, like we've also talked about some of the kills in this movie, but as they pertain to character arcs, which I don't remember doing for Halloween Kills. I think that's really cool. But I want to say the death of the radio guy is awesome. And I love the tongue spinning on the turntable. I think that's great.
Practical tongue.
Yeah. I'm very happy with that kill.
And it's fun that you get to hear on the radio as it's happening, the music breaking apart. The kills in this are pretty good. Not like the most inventive, but like they're all really good and they all look good. I'm so shocked that this was like such a character-driven movie, while still being, a pretty good Halloween movie.
I'm really intrigued. They do have official film novelizations, and there will be one for this. And David Gordon Green's kind of talked about how like they've really run with the through line of like Laurie getting to make her memoir and how like that would carry from. I'm wondering if like maybe in literature ways some of this would make more integrated sense for Laurie, specifically going from Kills to this one.
That'd be fun, yeah. Like a fake memoir.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a fun idea, yeah.
David Gordon Green's talked about how a lot of like ideas either they didn't have time for, or maybe they decided just didn't work for the film format. He knows have been taken over to the novelizations.
That's interesting. Love that.
Yeah, I really liked the I really like what the film's trying to, what all three films are trying to do thematically, but what this film is trying to do thematically. Um, and I just think that the whole idea of evil as a cancer that's spreading through the town, that every year is getting worse because we see like people die. At least one person died every Halloween since Michael Myers disappeared. And I think that's kind of a really cool way to take Michael Myers, to take Haddonfield, and it is something that I haven't seen all the Halloween movies. I've seen most of them, but it is something that I have not seen before.
Definitely.
And I'm really glad that I always say, regardless if I like it or not, I always prefer a swing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Rob Zombie movies definitely, I feel, are the most in line with this movie because dealing with like, that is just like, oh, what if Corey was Michael? Michael was abused as a child and all this stuff happened to him. And the Loomis stuff, I love the Loomis stuff in that movie because like Loomis is a shithole in those movies, God. And like the grift of like, again, like using someone else's pain to take it onto your own is like what this entire movie is about, and somewhat of the last movie too. I just think it's so smart, and it's so I wish Kills fed into this more, so it felt like a more natural conclusion. Because I love this movie, but it's not a natural conclusion to this trilogy at all. But it's so good and it's so inventive, and it's just like, again, I never thought I would see something like this, especially in like a Halloween movie. Like it's
and the worst, I think the worst just like sad thing about it is that it's created greater diminishing returns on kills by being good, but being good in a way that doesn't satisfy to the weaker points of kills and makes them more egregious. That's always just kind of sad when that happens. It's just a bit of a bummer. I mean, you kind of get the same thing with Last Jedi, right? Where Rise of Skywalker makes the great things about Last Jedi suffer for Rise of Skywalker. And like you can still stop at Last Jedi, whereas you want to get to Halloween Ends. But like you still have the knowledge of like how these things didn't work in service with each other, and it's kind of the same thing in a reverse direction.
I really wonder what they were thinking originally. I realized that Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends were written at the same time, shot back to back. I get that, but watching the extended ending is so wild to me that at one point, I don't believe that at one point, whatever that extended ending was meant to be was leading into this movie. I find that very difficult to believe. So I do wonder, was there a world at one point where these movies were a lot closer together?
I think even without the extended ending, the intent of Halloween Kills End is still like, it's Michael versus Laurie next time because he killed Karen. And that's like, even in the theatrical version, that is still the implication. It is quick cutting between Michael looking somewhere and Laurie looking somewhere. Like they're looking at each other, like they're looking at each other for their showdown. Like it creates that vibe regardless of which ending you watch. And this film does not feel in communication with that ending at all.
Just curious to wonder, like, what was the...
it's very weird. It's just very weird. It's very interesting, the fact that Green was working on both of these at the same time, and like the fact that they don't really connect with each other as clearly as or to the benefit really of the second one as much is surprising. It's just interesting. Like sometimes you're just too close to a thing, I guess.
It's been fun watching interviews with Jamie Lee Curtis because you can't talk about, obviously, like you can't spoil any movie you're in, but this movie specifically, there's a hook that they just don't reveal in the marketing. So she's just like, yep, final fight with Michael. I wonder who wins. Like she can't say shit, and she's just like, I gotta be fun on screen for a couple minutes.
And I'm really glad they kept. I don't think there's a world where Corey would have been in the marketing as like the Michael Myers Corey, but I'm really glad they did, because every shot of Michael Myers in the trailers. Well, not every shot, because there's stuff in the kitchen, but like
except for the kitchen, though,
it's Corey. And I think that's really cool.
And
I think that's really cool. There's another shot I want to highlight before we kind of get out of this. I really love when Corey goes in to steal Michael's mask. I think that's a really cool. Again, talking about blocking. I think that's a really cool shot. How we stay in the tunnel. The camera stays in the tunnel, and we see them scuffling around in the den. I really like that shot. I think the shot is great.
There's 3 Michael Myers gets up moments in this movie, and they're all great. One of them is in the sewer after Corey beats his ass and he gets up. Another is after Laurie stabs him in the sternum, and then in the kitchen he just stands up and pushes her into the refrigerator. And I'm like, that is so baller.
Reminds you how strong he is.
Yeah, and then the final one is Corey. Corey falls off the roof of the DJ place, and he's like, oh, and he gets up just like Michael, and I'm like, yo, you evil man.
There's even a shot where, like, I think this movie, honestly, I think this movie telegraphs that this kid is going to become the next Michael, because there's the shot when he's the first time we see him in the Scarecrow mask, which is at the party before he meets Michael Myers. He has this moment where he tilts his head and the blank expression in the mask. And I think that it was in that moment where I noticed, I was like, oh shit.
He drives to Laurie's house and he does the Michael thing outside the bushes.
Yeah, but that's after he meets Michael. That's after he meets Michael.
I told Ryan that, like, I clocked, oh, he's gonna be our killer guy when he's when we see him at the garage the first time, the junkyard, and he's in the blue jumpsuit already.
You're right.
And I was like, okay, so he's our guy. Got it.
He's the new Michael.
Right.
Yeah, I liked. I forgot what I was gonna say. All right, never mind.
Yeah, I don't blame people for not liking this movie. There's a part of me that's like, hey, you didn't get what the movie marketed. That doesn't mean you have to hate the movie because you don't get what you were promised. Like, try to enjoy the thing for what it is. And I get people not accepting this movie, but again, like, just an hour of these two old people fighting each other is not the movie I wanted to see. And that is the movie what a lot of people apparently wanted to see.
To be fair to that audience, a lot of the complaint isn't necessarily that it's not just about Michael and Laurie fighting the whole time. It's that it's not about Michael. That's like it's not featuring Michael in most of the film. Sure, I should say it that way because it is still about Michael, but it's not featuring Michael in most of the film the way that they anticipated, and that's really what it is. It's more that than it is anything.
I'm just saying, if a movie's good, you should still like.
That's true. That's true.
Like, oh, you didn't get enough fighting in your Halloween movie. I'm sorry.
But like we said, you know, the marketing does set you up for failure in that regard. The end of the previous film sets you up for failure in that regard. It sets you up for this big final moment with Michael Myers. It's what we all figured the movie was. People aren't wrong, I think, for wanting to have anticipated that and wanted to see that. And usually, generally, if you go in with a strong vision of what you kind of want a movie to be, it's going to take a second watch for you to reassess.
No, I know, I get that 100%. I just wish people had broader imaginations than just watching these two old people fight for an entire movie.
But let's also be honest. Like, generally, when this happens in a horror franchise or just horror in general, the majority audience doesn't usually bounce with it. So, like, I don't expect a lot of people to get on board with this. This isn't usually the type of film that they get on board with anyway, regardless of the franchise ID.
It's too artsy fartsy in a way.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, it's more about themes than it is about murder, and that's a problem for the murder fans. Which is that's fair. I can't blame you. I had such a good time. I guess also because my expectations were so low. So like,
but we also got to remember, like, we're the people who are saying, oh, I don't want to see the movie that the trailers are marketing. Whereas there were people saying, I wanted to see that movie.
Yeah.
So, like,
they're boring.
All right. On that note, rate it while I massage my dog's throat.
Oh, I thought that was my chair doing that. Man, this is my favorite of the three, for sure. I vibed with this movie harder than I could have anticipated. Definitely not perfect. I'm gonna give it a 9, hard 9, big hard 9. Corey Cunningham, you're a what a character. Love your scary eyes.
Sparks.
I think it's unfair that this film has to be weighed down by the pressure of everything else that had to be brought to the table. Like, it's fair in the sense that it is the third in a trilogy, and like they kind of knew what they were getting into, so they had all the tools to anticipate how to better mitigate this, and somehow didn't but that's more the fault of Kills than it is of this movie. Mm-hmm. This movie, I think, is bold. I think it's doing a lot. I think it's doing a lot of things I like to see most done, particularly in Haddonfield with the Michael Myers idea. And I think the film is mostly executed really well. as an ultimate conclusion to the trilogy and as a payoff of Halloween Kills, it falls short in a lot of ways. And it's unfortunate that we can't sit here and talk about how, like, man, they really just, like, what an incredible trilogy through and through, top to bottom. I wish we could. I really desperately wish we could have seen the version of these that would have come out without the pandemic, because I think that is, especially, I think now having seen this, Kills suffers most from that pandemic change and the political climate of the time infecting the idea of what that movie was doing. Yeah, and I think a reevaluation of, like, how these elements could have worked together would have made for stronger things. But this film itself is doing such good stuff, and I think if you're picking up on all of it, even if some of it isn't quite all the way there, or it's not serviced completely by its broader aspects, it's still really good and a treat to watch. So it's a 9.
Yay! Hell yeah!
I started this review by saying I wasn't too sure how I felt about this movie. While I do agree with some of your points about some of the negatives that I said in the beginning, after a while there wasn't too many negatives I had to say. They are still present for me, but that doesn't diminish what I think this movie is trying to do. And while I do think it is clumsy, it's not as clumsy as Kills. And because of that, it's allowing itself to take a swing that I would prefer them to do. Even if clumsy, even if it didn't work, I would have still preferred the swing. I do prefer that they did try to do something different. They tried to make this trilogy about themes, about really. It's weird to say about something, because I realize that the first film is trying to be about something, but like the idea of, like, it's not just trying to completely do just do a Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode movie. It is trying to be about something. It's trying to kind of be about that trauma. And I think that's all present throughout the 3 films. And the way they do it in this film, I think, is very engaging. As Ryan said, it brought a lot of good conversations. And at the end of the day, I would prefer that to, honestly, to Kills, because I don't think our conversation on Kills was quite as thoughtful, quite as engaging as our conversation with Ends. And I think that's a testament to what this movie is doing and what this movie is doing well.
I was worried. I was worried because he's directing a Exorcist trilogy after this, a whole trilogy worth of movies. So I was worried, but now that I've seen Ends and I know what he's capable of doing, because, like, I love Halloween, the first Halloween, but, like, this is a considerably more stylish movie. And it's doing more with the franchise. So, like, if he can do this from the start with the Exorcist trilogy, and he actually, plans it out instead of unfortunate pandemic stuff getting in the way, then, like, I'm thrilled. I'm so excited for the future. Like, sure. I love this movie more than I ever could have anticipated. And it's like it's not because of Michael Myers, and I know it's, like, why people come to this franchise, but, like, it is bigger than that. It can be bigger than that, and I hope some people see that in the future.
Yeah, I think that, again, just to kind of bounce me back into what I was trying to say, like, the idea of, like, what the swing that this film takes is engaging, and I'm happy it exists, and I'm happy they did it. I still like the first film in this trilogy a lot more. So I feel pretty confident that my rating is a 7.5. But in the sense of, it's going to be very strange to say, I love this for what it's trying to do. So it's a strong 7.5. It's a 7.5 that feels like a 9, if that makes sense. Like, there's two kind of senses that I have about this movie where I just feel like it's a 7.5, but, like, there is a lot that I very much loved in this film, and I prefer it to exist than anything else.
It's a 9 in a vacuum for you.
Yeah, probably.
But it's 7.5.
All right, book club.
I just wanted to touch on real quick that we didn't touch on the font styles, what they're doing Halloween.
Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3.
The 1, 2, 3, and the people talking about that, which I think they absolutely should. I thought the blue Halloween 3 season, which callback was really great. It makes me wonder if, like, part of the problem here was maybe a commitment too much to the idea of this is the one that has to be like 3, where it's branching away from the idea of Michael, just like 3 did. And maybe to the detriment of like what thematically they were doing with the trilogy. Like the second one has to be the one that takes place on the same night, just like Halloween 2. And the third one has to be the one that
might be part of it.
Maybe. I'm just wondering if like, we'll never have the answer, but maybe that they got too married to that concept that it blurred them away from the story they were telling thematically and how it all worked together.
Maybe. I don't mind.
Yeah. Also, I realized we didn't talk about the last shots. I really like the last shots of this movie mirroring the first Halloween film, but we don't hear the breathing. And playing Blue Oyster Cult, I thought was a plus choice, 100% A plus choice.
The Reaper.
Yeah, really, really liked it. Super weird that Laurie kept the mask. Okay, now I'm done.
Yeah, that is an interesting shot.
I'm going to split the difference and just say that it's an 8. It's an 8 out of 10.
There it is.
Brandon, you can feel how you feel, my man.
Well, I do, and I said
an 8 out of 10.
Love it.
an 8 out of
8
10.
out of 10.
Shall we do our book club?
Frankenstein.